When we look at the world map, we can find many disputes, and basically, the biggest one of those map imposters is located over here in the South China Sea. Nearly every country that borders South China Sea has at least one dispute surrounding its claims over it. So you have these small disputes like Vietnam and Malaysia, who just can't decide who owns these islands. And then there's China, that just claims it all. So, what can be even this big chunk of water good for? Well, these countries are not fighting for the water. That's not Africa. You can't just bring... Anyway, what these countries are fighting for is EEZ, or Exclusive Economic Zone, in which their laws apply and in which people have to pay for passing through, and fishermen have to pay taxes to them. So, money.
By the way, a lot of friends of mine that know my business, boy, that's really not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money.
So, now when we know why they want it, let's take a look at some explanation for why it should belong to them. Let's start with you, China. So, in the first half of 20th century, China took a bunch of old maps and told cartographers to draw China's borders, and one of them drew this monstrosity. And since then, South China Sea definitely belongs to China. This makes no sense, right? It's like if I would draw this. And now, that's USA. What would you do, China? No more balloons, I guess? Because this Chinese plan for the South China Sea, which is called 9-dash line, was done after World War II, when the things with Taiwan and China were sorta still had to be figured out. The Chinese province with the lowest social credit score, Taiwan, claims all of the South China Sea too. The second largest claim over the South China Sea belongs to Vietnam, and he claims this. The explanation for this is that this was the EEZ of French colony of French Indochina, and after this colony ceased to exist, it got, just like most of the French Indochina, incorporated into Vietnam. Soon after Vietnam declared its independence, Malaysia did the same and claimed this, plus these islands that I already told at the start of this video. They claimed these islands because, supposedly, after USA kicked Japan's butt, Japan just let them took it over. Then there is the tiny nation of Bahrain, and just like Chihuahua has a dispute with everyone, Bahrain doesn't. Bad Chihuahua. Bahrain, just like Malaysia, claims these small islands. Bahrain claims them for the same reason as Malaysia, but claims them more. Then there are Philippines that claim all this. I guess it's the third largest claim over the South China Sea, but I don't know, cause I'm too lazy to look for it. Anyway, they claim this, because they're saying that this is part of the Philippine archipelago. Okay, now when we know how messed up these borders are, let's have a closer look at some of the islands in South China Sea, because China has some fishy stuff cooking down here. Let's zoom at one of these islands and first take a look at who controls them. Okay, at this point I wanted to name every island and say who controls what, but that would be too hard, and so I just found this map on Wikipedia, and I'm gonna show you this. So basically everyone controls something else. And that's not even all. Let's zoom at one of these islands that are controlled by China. This something has a freaking military base running down here. And yet more, this island didn't even used to be here a few months ago. There was a war. So they just came here and built their own island from nothing, and there are many of these islands, and these islands are crucial for China because they're strengthening their position over the South China Sea and providing a threat to the other nations that claim the naturally built islands. Once, China even made a blockade on one of the islands where people are sent to guard it, and the people here weren't able to receive food and supplies. And China slowly continues to do the same also at the other surrounding islands. And with China receiving more ships by building more bases, this action, similar to bullying, will continue to increase inside of the South China Sea. Hey Karen! Yes? What is that important that you wanna tell me? I was just encouraging the workers in KFC not to sell meat. Did you know how is China building their artificial islands? That sounds like a waste of my time, sweetheart. No. It's really important because the sand that they're using to build these artificial islands, they're not taking it from the mainland China and instead just taking it directly from the sea and just by this destroying the ecosystem here. And then they just take it to some atoll and bury the inside of the atoll with this sand. And basically burying homes of thousands of fish and maybe even some fish alive. And they do this all on this boat. Oh, how dare they use boats! I have to take a trip to the capital of China and explain them how dangerous boats are. Wait a minute. What is the capital of China? Beijing. And please tell them this.
Yeah, boy.
Okay, I'll remember this. So, can this situation be somehow resolved? Well, all the nations that have a dispute in the South China Sea are willing to resolve this somehow, except one. And guess who it is? Oh yes, it's the elephant in the room, China. And therefore, we have only two options for resolving this situation. First of all, war. And second of all, current successfully killing Xi Jinping and China getting a better leader. Remember when at the start of this video I said then South China Sea is the largest dispute in the world? I kinda lied. I would say it was check if you're not sleeping, or as my math teacher used to say in Czech, cause I'm from Czechia, kontrola spánku. In case you don't know, the largest world dispute are the two Chinas that I already made a video about, so go check it out. By this video, I would also like to thank all my former classmates that just graduated with me. Thank you for such a wonderful time we had together.